Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube and also at overwatchproject.com, where I'm trying to figure out what reality is all about by looking at all the evidence and controlling cognitive biases, pushing them aside so I can analyze things honestly and fairly. So telepathy. Telepathy, or you could call it nonverbal communication, is something that when you have so many cases from near-death experiences and from out-of-body experiences and experiments and scientific data that suggests that it does occur, although not so easily, but it happens to people. Clairvoyance, events that show that we're somehow connected to everything, or we can sense things without or beyond our five senses. Telepathy is something that sparks back to life our ability for it almost immediately, as soon as our spirit body or our true self is free of this biological avatar body and brain that we have to haul around all day. Telepathy is obviously suppressed by the brain that's processing our consciousness. And the more I look at this, and in all my videos lately I've been talking about this prison matrix reality trap, the theory of the soul net, the theory of the reincarnation trap. And when you look at all the evidence together, everything without excluding one because it makes you feel uncomfortable or another, the UFO abduction phenomena, UFO phenomena in general, the near-death experiences, the claims of people that say they have out-of-body experiences, the research into DMT, the honest research into consciousness by people like Rupert Sheldrake and others. It all connects. It all connects together. And even in the UFO field, I was just listening to Grant Cameron. He's best known for all of his research in the ufology that has to do with FOIA requests with the presidential libraries, etc. And you have this whole discussion here. This is over a 2-hour-long interview on Skeptico with Grant Cameron, and I start to notice something. All of these researchers, and most people, I'd say 95% of everyone on the whole planet, whether you are steeped into your materialism and you can't accept anything beyond that, or you are not steeped in materialism and you can't accept the evidence that shows you that consciousness doesn't come from the brain, you get into this quagmire with people. Nobody really looks at the hypothesis or the theory of the soul net, the reincarnation trap. There are some of you, obviously, people that are watching my channel that do, and there's a few others out there. And some of these people go by the name Gnostic, but even that term Gnosticism has been corrupted, because you can be an atheist Gnostic, or you can be an not agnostic, but you can be almost like an agnostic, because you have atheism, a version of Gnosticism that's based in atheism out there, and you can have you have all these different flavors of Gnosticism. But the word Gnostic, without looking at what it's been corrupted into by some of these people, I mean, a true Gnostic is somebody simply seeking the truth and knowledge of what is really going on with our reality. And it's a personal knowledge, it's a personal journey. And it's not going to be found in a book that's going to tell you how to do it. You really have to do all the research yourself. So this whole concept of a prison reality, of a soul net, when you're listening to this 2-hour-long interview here with Skeptico, with Alex from Skeptico, who I happen to agree with a whole lot, but they're hemming and hawing about what all this research data means, and nobody looks at it from the perspective of the soul net, matrix, reincarnation trap, false light, whatever you want to call it. And And it occurred to me that telepathy, which comes up in all this research, is something that I need to address now. Telepathy is like a sense, an ability that apparently we all have. But our brain and body is designed, and I have to point out, the hypothesis of the prison planet reality matrix, SoulNet thing, is the only hypothesis that answers all of the issues with all of these different bits of information, makes them all fit together, and it has an answer. So far, it has had an answer for just about everything. So, why is telepathy suppressed? You see, if you look at some of the stuff we're told by so-called angelic beings, or the so-called deities, or the deity that people meet during NDEs, that this is all learning experience here on Earth, and that's all bullshit. Okay, first of all, everything is a deception. Telepathy is an ability that you gain back as soon as you step out of the body, and this ability must be viewed as like, okay, what if you could never actually see or hear anything, and suddenly those senses kick on? There is going to be a time where there's a learning curve. You have all this flood of new information coming at you, and it's going to be a little while before you can figure out how it works. Now, in our world today, what if tomorrow everybody woke up and they had this ability switched on? Well, I would submit to you that within a short time, maybe a few weeks, people would start to get a handle of it. Now, when you enter an NDE state and people go and they meet these spirit beings, they have a whole bunch of information thrown at them. It's all about love, it's about the light, there's information from all the research about reincarnation that people get prepped to go back into this fucking shit show of a world that we live in, and all this about it being a learning experience. Let me ask you something seriously, for all you people out there that know what I'm talking about and that understand the whole prison planet matrix or Gnostic view of things. If God really wanted us to empathize with other beings, if he really wanted us to be the best we could be, all that would be necessary in this world would be for the telepathy switch to be turned on while we're in the body. Because if that switch were turned on, if the brain would stop blocking it, and it's so natural to us that in so many cases of synchronicity and other cases of knowing who's calling you or knowing that you're being stared at, etc., whatever, telepathy is so natural to us that the biological prison that we're in it can't contain it all. So some of it leaks out. But imagine that we are all telepathic suddenly. Now, we all have this ability of... Telepathy simply is nonverbal communication. Now, I have a desperate problem trying to articulate all of the knowledge that I've accumulated and all my research to you in words. My goodness, if I could just beam out to my viewers not only what I'm trying to say without words, but also all the experience, observations, and the research I've done simultaneously. Imagine how fast and rapid humanity would not only change, but we'd also have empathy with people at an unparalleled level with telepathy, because people that are in pain, people that you're about to hurt, you'll be able to feel them. And in NDE state, all these experiencers, the doctor that's trying to save this person's life, for example, he doesn't experience the telepathy because he's still trapped in his body. But the person out of body, looking at their dying corpse on the hospital bed, looking at the doctor, can know what he's thinking, feel his emotions, know why he's doing what he's doing. knowledge is at hand. We are all individualist points of consciousness. The other thing is this bullshit that's going around that it's all one. We're like, we get absorbed back into the oneness of it all. That is clearly all bullshit. We maintain our individualism after death. Obviously, all the data points to that. But we can then see how everything is connected at the same time. So we can communicate with this method of nonverbal communication, which is suppressed in humanity. But if God really wanted us to be all we can be, that telepathy switch is all it would take. In a few weeks, I would grant you, in a couple of weeks of learning how to use our newfound skill, which we apparently have always had, but we can't remember because we're born with amnesia. Our senses are crippled. Our consciousness is so crippled by our brain. We have these cognitive biases built into the brain, designed to be like a stupidity on demand switch. You have to be so aware of cognitive issues when you're doing research, so you don't filter out data and evidence, so you don't suppress information. Telepathy would eliminate all of that. Not only that, I'm sure that after we used it for a while, you'd be able to vet people. So right now, it's clear. The UFO abduction phenomena makes it crystal clear. People like John Mack, Bud Hopkins, all that research that's been done in the UFO phenomena, they all acknowledge that there's massive deception going on. And all that massive deception comes from nonverbal communication. Carla Turner, another fine example of somebody who is exposing all this, and her 3 books are fascinating, especially Masquerade of Angels. I highly recommend that one if you can find a copy of it. And if you go on my website, or there's a actual YouTube channel that has her books in audio form, you can listen to it for free. The things with this ability for these spiritual beings during the NDE state to be able to lie to us is only because we're so fresh at coming back into our nonverbal communication skills that we don't have a handle on them yet. People don't vet these beings. They don't vet the UFO abduction people. We get shit thrown at us, information thrown at us, false information thrown at us, and nobody does any vetting. But I bet you if we had the ability for a little while, deception would be one of the first things that would disappear in our world. We wouldn't be able to be deceived. We certainly wouldn't be able to also deceive ourselves so easily, since we would have access to basically universal knowledge. And we are individuals. So like these people like Grant Cameron here, there's a little part in the Skeptica where they go back and forth about he seems to be one of these everything is consciousness thing, which it may be, but it's not all one exactly. Just like my computer is not all the internet. It's connected to the internet, and it has access to everything that's on the internet that's available to the computer, but the computer itself is not one with everything. It simply is connected to everything. And I think that's how things work. So like you have all these versions of you from all these biological beings that you may have been in reincarnations, all because we keep getting recycled back here. We lose our ability to communicate non-verbally. You have to use this really awkward way of communicating, articulating what you're trying to say to people. And if I could just beam to you everything I know, just imagine if everybody could do that. First of all, learning would be super easy. Understanding and sympathizing with people would be natural. See, if we're really in a benevolent environment here, created by a loving God that wanted us to learn how to be nice to each other, all we would need is a little bit more telepathy or nonverbal communication skills. And it would just happen. It would happen right away. Another thing is, like, in these UFO cases and NDE cases and in OOBE cases, you do run into the Jesus being several different people that report that. And if you take a look at Howard Storm's book, okay, there's a couple. This is what I'm starting to notice. Without knowing it, if you study the whole concept of the Gnostic Demiurge Archons, or the ancient alien stuff, but don't put such a thing on ETs on it. It's more like a spiritual thing. If you take a look at all the data, or the whole hypothesis of that reality, and then you take a look at what people are reporting, people like Robert Monroe in Far Journeys here. At one point in this book, he actually acknowledges that, hey, you know what, this all could be malevolent, but he acknowledges that and says, but I prefer to think of it as benevolent, because like he doesn't even want to deal with the possibility that it's something bad, because he wouldn't know what to do about it if it was. Some of the stuff in the book here is crazy. Now, I've never really talked about out-of-body experiences before, simply because compared to NDEs, there's not a lot of veridical data, whereas NDE data is so much veridical data available, and that's why it's absolutely absurd not to understand that our consciousness not only survives the bodily death and the brain death, but we are not even our bodies and brains. We are something entirely different, and sure, that stuff of who we were in this body, who I am, is attached to my ego, and that kind of follows me for a short time after death. And it sure would be nice if I wasn't so, if people weren't so interrupted so quickly after death, that they could get themselves together. But of course, you can't keep people in this prison system unless you jump in there right away. Oops, we got another one. He's out of the body, or she's out of the body. We better go greet them, better bring Jesus out, better bring Buddha out, whoever they need to see, and then tell them everything we need want them to know through nonverbal communications, and then show them the light love thing, and then convince them that everything's going to be all right. But really, what is really going on? Like I said in the Howard Storm book, a book I highly recommend people read, the details in this book show it's all connected. Everything is connected. What he learns in his near-death experience, and he's a Christian preacher, but even he will admit that the doctrines and dogmas of Christianity today don't match what he learned. And then you have to ask yourself the question, okay, so if you're a Christian out there and you read his book and it doesn't jive with what you were told or what you're imagining in your mind Jesus to be, or what the Bible actually means and all this other stuff, and then you read this book, it's a huge logical dilemma now, because if you go out and say, well, this is satanic, this is a satanic deception, at what point is Satan not allowed to lie to you about? Is Satan, and I'm not even acknowledging that there is such a thing as Christians know it, but if there were, how do you explain that he's allowed to impersonate Jesus in so many NDE cases? Or is it that you guys and the atheists that don't want to let go of materialism and all the other religious people, 75% of all religious people follow some type of fear, guilt, submission, or savior-oriented religion, basically making 75% of religious followers literally into sheeple? Or you're the atheist out there that can't look at any of the veridical, truthful data about consciousness and all the research that's been done, and you just have to shut it out because your cognitive biases are literally your brain's stupidity on demand switch. And one of the key things is that telepathy, or nonverbal communication, And it's another clue that the matrix theory or hypothesis is the most correct one so far that I found, because if nonverbal communications weren't so blocked, we would not even have any of the problems in the world that we have today. So the only reason to block that method of communication in body and brain is because it would lead to all of our problems going away, and then we would start to remember who we were or figure it out rapidly, and then we would be out of the prison matrix that we're all living in. It's one of the things that makes the most sense if you look at all the data and evidence. I will link to this video, The Mystery of Telepathy During NDE. Rupert Sheldrake, I'll just link to his website. It'll be in the description section below. This article from near-death.com on telepathy and the near-death experience will be in the description section below. I highly recommend you listen to this whole interview. It is fascinating with Grant Cameron, and here, I'll link to his website also. And do your own research. And for those of you out there that have already that realize, I mean, see, the whole thing is that in reality, the absolute true Gnostic type person out there is an extreme minority compared to the rest of the world. I am literally speaking out there, and only a very, very few people will know what I'm talking about. And it's very sad, because you cannot get through cognitive biases. You cannot break through cognitive dissonance. These are brain designed things that keep us from seeing the truth. Now, maybe there is something too that some of us have chosen to come here just to see if we could wake people up. But I'm telling you something right now. I cannot take... while I can see it when I'm talking to somebody, an open-minded person that's willing to discuss all sorts of topics like UFOs, spirituality, the afterlife. You start connecting the dots for them in evidence of the whole prison planet matrix type stuff. Start connecting all the dots. You can see as you get closer and closer to making your point, they become uncomfortable and they start to shut you out. No shit, you can almost see it, like a switch goes off in their eyes, like they start to like get uncomfortable, and it's like they don't want to hear that. It's got to be karma, it's got to be benevolent, it's a reincarnation so we can learn something. It's unbelievable. But I'm telling you something, when I'm finally done with this reality here, there's no fucking way I'm coming back to this shit show. I'm sorry, I did my best. Tried to help you out. But for those interested in looking into the stuff I'm talking about in this video further, check out the links in the description section below. And that's it for this video. Telepathy, blocked by design to keep us in dark. See you later. Bye.